A routine traffic stop spirals into something dark and dangerous. Two officers thought they had the upper hand, but they stopped the wrong woman. A figure of quiet strength, sharp as a blade, wielding influence they couldn't fathom. They believed they could bully her, unaware she's the mother of the town's most powerful figure. She's poised to unravel a corrupt system long overdue for exposure. This isn't just one arrest, it's a reckoning decades in the making. Stay tuned, the twist will catch you off guard. Comment below with your listening time and location, we're curious. It was just past 10 p.m. in Willow Grove, Oregon, a sleepy town where nothing stirred, or so it seemed. Mist cloaked the streets, and streetlights hummed faintly above neat hedges and white picket fences, their glow glinting off wet pavement like silent alarms. This was a place where doors locked by 9 o'clock, and neighbors returned borrowed tools. But tonight, something was about to shatter that calm, a disruption brewing beneath the surface of Willow Grove's quiet facade. A silver Buick sedan cruised down Maplewood Lane. Behind the wheel was Eleanor Hayes, a 72-year-old black woman whose poise exuded authority. Her posture was impeccable, hands steady, though sorrow lingered just below her calm exterior. She'd just left a memorial for her late husband, Clarence, gone a week ago after 45 years of marriage, 2 children, and decades of advocacy. Tonight was meant to ease her grief, but loss doesn't follow schedules. In her car's quiet, Eleanor still heard Clarence's voice when silence stretched too long. She wore a charcoal wool coat over a deep green dress, the one from his funeral. Her silver earrings caught the streetlight's flicker, and her gray hair was pinned neatly. Eleanor carried the grace of a woman who'd taught book clubs, organized coat drives, and never raised her voice, even when provoked. As she turned onto Birch Street, headlights appeared in her rear view, a police SUV too close. You don't live 7 decades as a black woman in America without sensing scrutiny. She told herself it was nothing, just a coincidence. Still, her grip on the wheel tightened. She made another turn, then another. The SUV stayed close. By the third, it was no mistake. Her pulse quickened, not fear, but a familiar instinct. She flicked on her hazards and eased the Buick to the curb under a sputtering street lamp. The SUV stopped behind her, its red and blue lights flashing like a TV crime scene. Eleanor moved deliberately, placing her wallet and registration on the passenger seat, hands folded calmly, breathing steady, back straight. She'd done nothing wrong, but that never ensured safety. The SUV's door slammed, boots crunched on wet pavement. A flashlight beam sliced through the night, sweeping her trunk, then her window. A sharp voice barked, "Driver, lower your window." Eleanor complied. Officer Lauren Pierce approached. White, late 20s, auburn braid, angular face, eyes cold. In Willow Grove, Pierce was known for her relentless approach to anything out of place. Her flashlight blinded Eleanor. "License and registration," she snapped. Eleanor gestured to the documents, clearly visible on the seat. Pierce didn't take them immediately. She studied Eleanor too long. "What are you doing in this area tonight?" "I live here," Eleanor said evenly, 3 blocks away, heading home from a memorial. Pierce's eyes narrowed. "A memorial?" "For my husband," Eleanor added. "He passed last week." A brief pause, a flicker of uncertainty behind the light. "Those Alabama plates, when did you move here?" 4 months ago, to be near my daughter," Eleanor replied. Another pause, then a shift. "Step out of the vehicle," Pierce ordered, her tone hardening. Eleanor blinked. "Is there a reason?" Pierce's voice sharpened. "Ma'am, get out now." The night turned from quiet to tense, grief to threat. Down the street, a retired mechanic, Tom Carver, paused over his evening coffee, noticing the flashing lights, the officer's stance, the tone. He knew trouble when he saw it. Grabbing his phone, he opened the camera and pressed record. Sometimes history doesn't whisper. It crashes through. Officer Lauren Pierce stood rigid, her hand near her holster, flashlight still glaring into Eleanor's eyes. No pleasantries, just suspicion cloaked in authority. Eleanor unbuckled her seatbelt slowly. Quick moves at her age could be risky, especially with an officer like Pierce. As she stepped out, the chilly air felt like a warning. "Hands where I can see them!" Pierce snapped, her voice too loud, slicing through the fog. Eleanor raised her hand slightly, signaling compliance. She was a grandmother, a widow, a woman who'd hosted town potlucks, but Pierce didn't care. She circled the Buick, eyes probing for any flaw. "Where you headed again?" Pierce asked. "Home, 3 blocks away," Eleanor replied, voice steady. Pierce stopped, staring. "Why didn't you stop sooner?" Eleanor's jaw tightened. "I stopped when your lights came on." "You were weaving," Pierce said, rewriting the moment. "I wasn't," Eleanor countered calmly. "It's my word against yours," Pierce said flatly. Eleanor understood this wasn't about traffic. It was about dominance. Pierce stepped closer. Flashlight now on Eleanor's chest. "Anything in the car I need to know about? Drugs? Weapons?" Eleanor raised an eyebrow. "No, officer." Pierce keyed her radio. "Dispatch, I'm at Maplewood and Birch with a silver Buick. Female driver. Out-of-state plates, says she lives nearby. Requesting backup." Eleanor tilted her head. "Backup for what?" Pierce's face hardened. "We'll find out. Keep your hands visible." Eleanor stood silently, breath fogging in the cold, eyes sharp. She was weary but unbroken, refusing to be cowed. Across the street, Tom Carver leaned against his window, phone steady, his gut telling him this was wrong. Years as a first responder had taught him to trust that instinct. Minutes passed. Another cruiser arrived. Officer Frank Sullivan, late 50s, gray hair, paunch straining his vest, stepped out. He didn't ask questions, just nodded at Pierce. "What's up?" Pierce kept her eyes on Eleanor. "Suspicious behavior, out-of-state plates, got defensive when I asked her to exit." Eleanor stayed silent, knowing how this would be spun. Sullivan turned to her. "Ma'am, mind if we search your car?" "Yes," Eleanor said firmly. "I've done nothing wrong. You have no cause." Pierce smirked. "We can get a warrant." Eleanor met her gaze. "Then get one." Pierce leaned in, too close. "People like you always think you're above the law." "People like me?" Eleanor echoed slowly. "You mean people who know their rights?" Pierce's face twitched. "Hands on the hood now." "For what?" Eleanor asked. "You're detained for obstruction," Pierce snapped. Tom Carver muttered under his breath, "Here we go," and started recording again. Pierce grabbed Eleanor's arm, turning her toward the car. Eleanor didn't resist, but her body tensed as the cold hood met her palms. "I'm not under arrest," Eleanor said clearly. "Not yet," Pierce muttered. The cuffs clicked shut, the sound cutting through the empty street. Eleanor winced, not from pain, but from the weight of history. She didn't cry or plead. Her silence was her strength. She knew who she was, and though Pierce didn't yet, this moment wouldn't end as the officer expected. Eleanor had buried a husband, raised a city leader, fought for justice when others stayed quiet. This wouldn't break her. It was just the start. Handcuffed beside her Buick, Eleanor stood tall as Pierce turned to the second cruiser, a faint smirk on her face. The flashing lights painted the foggy night, reflecting off nearby windows. Someone might have been watching behind a curtain, but no one stepped out. Sullivan scratched his neck, eyeing Eleanor. She didn't look like a threat, more like someone who'd bring pie to a council meeting. But Pierce was already moving, and questioning her meant trouble. Pierce had allies in high places, people who admired her tough approach. Sullivan stayed quiet. "Let's take her in," Pierce said. "I'll drive." "What's the charge?" Sullivan asked, more routine than challenge. "Obstruction, possible false ID. We'll figure it out at the station." He nodded, stepping back as if distancing himself. Pierce opened her cruiser's back door. "Get in, watch your head." Eleanor sat slowly, dignity intact despite the cuffs. The door slammed shut, a sound heavy with history. Inside his house, Tom Carver's hand shook as he stopped recording. The video was short but damning. Eleanor, calm, treated like a criminal. He grabbed his jacket, phone in hand, and stepped outside. He wasn't done. At the station, the mood was casual. Officers bantered. A radio played soft rock. Fluorescent lights buzzed. When Pierce marched Eleanor in, heads turned. Not because she seemed dangerous, but because she didn't fit here. Eleanor walked steadily, refusing to let shame touch her. "Who's this?" a young officer asked, pausing at a coffee machine. Pierce grinned. "Out-of-state driver, big attitude, maybe false ID. We'll book her and sort it out." The officer raised an eyebrow. "She looks like my grandma." Pierce's eyes flashed. "Did I ask?" Silence followed. Sullivan slipped into the break room, avoiding eyes. He didn't like this, but he wasn't speaking up. Not yet. Eleanor was led to a holding room, stark and cold. They sat her at a metal table. She glanced at her reflection in the one-way mirror, taking a breath. She'd protested in Montgomery, spoken at Clarence's funeral, and now she was here, a suspect in a town where she shopped and greeted neighbors daily. Pierce sat opposite, arms crossed. "Let's try this again. Name?" "Eleanor Hayes," she replied evenly. "Address?" 2214 Oak Lane, 3 blocks from where you stopped me. Pierce didn't write anything, just stared. "Got an Oregon license?" "Applied for one. Alabama license is valid. DMV's delayed." Pierce leaned back. "Most people would cooperate more." Eleanor didn't blink. "I've cooperated fully, but cooperation isn't surrender, officer." Pierce's jaw tightened. "Why move here?" "To be near my daughter." Pierce pressed. "What'd she do?" Eleanor paused. "City work." It wasn't a lie, but it wasn't the full truth Pierce wanted. In the holding room, Eleanor shifted on the hard bench, wrists faintly sore from the cuffs. She ignored the discomfort. She'd endured worse, humiliation, arrogance in uniforms, but tonight felt different. Maybe because it came so soon after burying Clarence, who'd fought this same fight. She glanced at the mirror, wondering who watched, a rookie, a sergeant, or just her own reflection, dignified but worn. Not defeated, never that. She sat straighter, waiting for what came next. Elsewhere in the station, Officer Carla Ruiz watched Tom Carver's video end. She'd expected something minor, but this was blatant. Eleanor hadn't resisted or argued. She'd been calm, yet Pierce cuffed her. Ruiz turned to Tom. "Can I copy this?" "Please do," he said. "She didn't deserve that." Ruiz nodded, feeling the weight settle in her chest. This wasn't just a stop. It was a mistake, sparked by ego, sustained by silence. The department had seen this before, and it never ended well. Ruiz headed to Lieutenant Harper's office. Harper, grizzled and always sipping coffee, watched the video without a word. When it finished, he leaned back, sighing. "Again?" Ruiz nodded. "It's bad." Harper glanced at the door, then the phone. If this leaks before we're ready, it's a PR nightmare. Ruiz met his eyes. With respect, sir, it already is. Meanwhile, Pierce returned to the holding room, her posture stiffer, as if force could restore control. "We're verifying your identity," she said curtly. Eleanor replied, "I've told the truth." Pierce left without responding. Eleanor sat alone, the silence heavy. Then a phone rang. Not hers, not the station's, but a private line in Chief Leonard Grayson's office. He answered, half asleep. "Grayson." The voice was calm but commanding. "This is Mayor Cassandra Hayes. My mother's detained at your station. I want answers now." Grayson's pulse spiked. He knew that name, that voice. In seconds, so would the station. This wasn't just a traffic stop. It was about to become a headline. The clock ticked louder. In Grayson's office, the air grew thick. He hung up, stomach churning. Mayor Cassandra Hayes wasn't just a title. She was influence, respect, and now rage. He stood, rigid, and stormed into the hall. "Where's Officer Pierce?" he snapped at a desk clerk. "Holding room 3, came the reply. Grayson didn't wait, his steps echoing as he moved. Officers paused, sensing the shift. In the holding room, Eleanor sat, composed, unbreakable, ready for the storm that was about to break loose over Willow Grove. Eleanor sat calmly, wrists faintly marked from the cuffs, her reflection steady in the one-way mirror. She'd marched in Birmingham, eulogized Clarence days ago, and now sat here, labeled a threat in a town where she gardened and waved to neighbors. Officer Lauren Pierce sat across, eyes hard. "Name, again." "Eleanor Hayes," she replied smoothly. "Address, 2214 Oak Lane." Pierce scribbled nothing, glaring. "Local license?" "Applied. Alabama's valid." Pierce leaned forward. "Cooperation goes further." Eleanor's gaze held firm. "I've cooperated, officer, but I won't grovel." Pierce's lips tightened, tension crackling. "Why Willow Grove?" Pierce pressed. "To be near my daughter," Eleanor said. "What'd she do?" "City business," Eleanor answered, vague but true. Pierce wanted more, but Eleanor offered none. On the cold bench, Eleanor ignored the ache in her wrists. This wasn't new. Arrogance in badges, suspicion for existing. But tonight, so soon after Clarence's death, it stung deeper. She'd buried a fighter who'd battled this same bias. Glancing at the mirror, she saw her own eyes, tired, unbroken. Whoever watched, she'd outlast them. This wasn't her end, it was a spark. At the station's edge, Officer Carla Ruiz replayed Tom Carver's video. It was undeniable. Eleanor, composed, cuffed for nothing. She turned to Tom. "This is going viral." "Good," he said. "She deserves justice." Ruiz's stomach knotted. This wasn't one bad stop. It was a system failing again. She marched to Lieutenant Harper's office, phone in hand. Harper, gray-haired, coffee and grip, watched silently. When it ended, he sighed heavily. "This is trouble." Ruiz nodded. "It's worse than that, sir." Harper rubbed his jaw. "We need to tell Grayson now." Harper nodded, exhaling. "You're right. Get it to the chief." Ruiz left, her steps quick. In the holding room, Pierce returned, her stance rigid, as if posture could reclaim authority. "We're confirming your ID," she said sharply. "I've been truthful," Eleanor replied, voice even. Pierce said nothing, exiting again. Alone, Eleanor sat in silence, the room's chill sinking in. Then Chief Grayson's private line rang. He answered, groggy. "Grayson." Mayor Cassandra Hayes' voice cut through. "My mother's detained. Release her now." Grayson sat up, pulse racing, the name igniting urgency. Grayson's office felt like a pressure cooker. He hung up, Cassandra's voice echoing. Mayor Hayes wasn't just power, she was a force. He stormed into the hall, barking, "Where's Pierce?" "Back with the detainee," a clerk stammered. Grayson's shoes slapped the tiles as he moved, officers freezing mid-conversation. In the holding room, Eleanor sat, regal despite the cuffs. Grayson burst in, pausing at her presence. "Mrs. Hayes, I'm Chief Grayson. This ends now." Eleanor tilted her head. "That'd be wise." He turned to the guard. "Uncuff her immediately." The young officer fumbled with the keys. "Has she been charged?" Grayson asked. "No, sir." "Good. She shouldn't be here." Eleanor rubbed her wrists as the cuffs fell, saying nothing. In the hall, Ruas showed Harper the video again, her face tight. "We need to log this officially." Harper nodded, and briefed the chief. Grayson reappeared, Eleanor beside him. Officers straightened, some guilty, some stunned. "Ruiz," Grayson said, "escort her to the lobby. Ensure her comfort while we process her release." Ruiz nodded, meeting Eleanor's eyes, kindness at last. In the lobby, Tom Carver paced, spotting Eleanor as the doors opened. "Ma'am," he said, stepping forward, "I recorded everything. You were wronged." Eleanor offered a faint nod. "Thank you, Mr. Carver. Your footage may shift things tonight." Ruiz watched, a weight lifting. Back in Grayson's office, he faced Harper. "Show me." Harper played the video. Grayson's face darkened with each second. Eleanor, compliant, Pierce, aggressive. When it ended, he set the phone down. She didn't resist. "No, sir," Harper said. "Pierce overstepped." Grayson's jaw clenched. "Where's Pierce now?" "Locker room," Harper replied. "Get her to my office." In the locker room, Pierce was shedding her vest when her phone buzzed. "Chief wants you now." She scoffed, muttering, and grabbed her jacket. Entering Grayson's office, she stood tall. "Sit," he said coldly. Pierce crossed her arms. "What's this about?" "You detained Eleanor Hayes." "Yes, sir. She was evasive." Grayson's voice dropped. "You cuffed the mayor's mother." Pierce's arms fell. "Did you verify her ID before acting?" Pierce hesitated. She had Alabama plates, refused to search. "That's not cause," Grayson snapped, slamming his desk. "You profiled a black woman near her home, on camera." Pierce blinked. "Camera?" "A civilian recorded it. It's spreading already." Pierce went silent. Grayson leaned in. "You're suspended. Effective now. Badge and gun." Pierce's face flushed. "Because of politics?" "Because you broke protocol and started a firestorm." Slowly, she unclipped her badge, the clatter loud as it hit the desk. Her gun followed. She stood, rigid, and left. Grayson exhaled, the mess just beginning. His phone already buzzing with calls. Cassandra Hayes stormed into the lobby, coat unbuttoned, eyes blazing. Seeing Eleanor, her fury softened to relief. "Mom," she whispered, crossing the room in 3 strides, enveloping her in a hug. Eleanor's eyes closed briefly, soaking in her daughter's strength. "I'm fine," she murmured. Cassandra's jaw tightened. "Not another minute here. Let's go." Ruiz nodded silently as they passed. Cassandra pausing to meet her eyes. A shared understanding. The glass doors swung open, cool air rushing in. Inside, Grayson stared at Pierce's badge, knowing the storm was far from over. Grayson sat alone, the badge glinting under fluorescent light. Pierce was gone, but her actions had lit a fuse. Cassandra would speak, the town would react, reporters would swarm. Every stop, every report, every quiet complaint would be scrutinized. He rubbed his temples, reaching for the internal affairs line. It'd be a long night. By dawn, Tom's video hit local news. By noon, it was national. Footage of Eleanor, poised, cuffed beside her Buick while Pierce barked orders, looped on screens, sparking outrage and hashtags, Justice for Eleanor. News anchors called it shocking. Attorneys labeled it expected. On social media, it was Eleanor Gate, comments flooding in. People weren't just mad, they were livid, not only at the video but at its implications. A respected widow, a mayor's mother, treated as a criminal in her own town. At a press conference, Cassandra stood at a podium, Eleanor seated nearby, weary but composed. Flanked by aides, Cassandra's voice was steel. Last night my mother was wrongfully detained, profiled, and humiliated by an officer sworn to protect. Cameras flashed, capturing every word. Though, this isn't just about us, Cassandra continued. It's about every black woman treated as a suspect in her own community. Accountability starts now. Her pain was clear, but so was her resolve. Across town, Pierce sat in her darkened apartment, phone buzzing. Reporters, colleagues, a union rep. The video played endlessly. She told herself she'd followed rules, but doubt gnawed. She muted the TV, staring into a mirror, questioning the woman she saw. At the station, officers whispered, some defending Pierce, others seeing the truth in the footage. Officer Ruiz sat at her desk, compiling notes from the night, every word, every action. She didn't care for gossip, she cared for facts. And the facts condemned Pierce. Grayson had a letter from Internal Affairs. Investigators were coming. Everything, stops, tickets, complaints, would be reviewed, especially Pierce's. Ruiz dug deeper, pulling Pierce's traffic stop records. A pattern emerged. Escalations, dropped charges, complaints from Black and Latino residents often ignored. One name appeared twice. Sofia Ramirez, a single mother, stopped repeatedly, no record. Ruiz reached for the phone. Miss Ramirez, Officer Ruiz, can we talk about last spring? Meanwhile, Eleanor sat on her porch, tea in hand. Reporters kept at bay down the street. Calls poured in, friends, activists, strangers. One stuck, Sofia Ramirez saying, "Thank you for speaking up." Eleanor held the phone close, understanding. She'd once taught her kids to stay quiet, hands visible, but no more. By afternoon, City Hall's lines were swamped. Callers demanded Pierce's arrest. Others wanted reform. A few, tearful, asked, "Is Eleanor okay?" The town was waking up. Outside the station, protesters gathered, not loud but resolute. Neighbors, teachers, retirees who knew Eleanor held candles and video stills, standing silent for 10 minutes, the time she was cuffed. A teen passed out flyers. Who watches the cops? A YouTube stream launched, Willow Grove Exposed, showing Tom's footage and resident stories, Black, Latino, white, all targeted by Pierce. Sofia Ramirez spoke. She stopped me with my kids, claimed my car was stolen. I cried home. No one cared, until now. The video hit 60,000 views fast. Pierce watched the stream, frozen. Each story chipped at her denial. She'd seen Eleanor as a type, not a person, and now the world saw her as the problem. In town, Pastor Naomi Carter spoke on the courthouse steps. We say, this isn't us, but it's who we've let ourselves become. Change starts with truth. The crowd nodded. Cassandra, in her office, fielded calls from lawmakers, her mother's name now a rallying cry. To her, Eleanor was still Mom, the woman who'd shaped her strength. Eleanor watched the video at home, not Tom's, but another angle from a neighbor. Her voice, calm, asking, "Why, officer?" Pierce's face, taut, itching for control. Eleanor's hands shook, pausing the frame on her own eyes, defiant, steady. She didn't know that woman at first, but then she did. She pressed play, standing taller. 2 days later, Willow Grove was a flashpoint. News vans lined the square. Protesters swelled. Activists arrived from Seattle, Portland, Denver. Eleanor sat in a town hall, waiting for an emergency hearing on Pierce's actions. The Oversight Committee, 5 city officials, 2 state reps, 1 federal observer, was historic for Willow Grove. Eleanor hadn't planned to speak, but the crowds chanting her name changed that. Called to the mic, she stood, no notes, just truth. I was taught dignity and law would protect me. That night proved otherwise, not just for me, but for anyone like me. Pierce saw a threat, not a woman, because the system let her. The room hushed. I don't want pity. I want accountability. This isn't just my story. Applause started soft, then roared, a standing ovation. Outside, Cassandra watched the live stream, pride swelling. Her mother, never seeking fame, commanded it with grace no politician could match. Inside the station, tension spiked. Internal affairs arrived, files pulled, officers questioned. Some packed desks quietly, others avoided Ruiz, who now carried quiet authority. She'd spoken to Sofia Ramirez, whose story mirrored Eleanor's. Stops without cause, threats for questions. Ruiz recommended auditing Pierce's body cam footage, unsealing buried complaints. The pattern was clear, and it wasn't just Pierce. That afternoon, Cassandra met with the state attorney and aides reviewing hidden reports. 10 complaints, 8 involving minorities, 6 dismissed without review. All Pierce. What's her defense? The attorney asked. Cassandra's eyes stayed on the file. She trusted her gut. She set it down. Guts don't trump rights. Meanwhile, Ruiz interviewed James Carter, a 65-year-old black retiree, stopped by Pierce for failing to signal. I signaled, he said. She just didn't like me driving that truck. Ruiz wrote every detail, the pattern growing sharper, undeniable, ready to break open. At home, Eleanor found letters on her porch. Handwritten, typed, from strangers. One read, "Your strength is my mother's." Another, "You showed us grace." She read each, the light fading. A knock came. Sofia Ramirez, holding a pie. "Thank you," Sofia said. Eleanor smiled, opening the door. 2 women, 2 stories, sharing a quiet kitchen in a town forced to listen. Across the street, Tom Carver filmed, not for fame, but for history. Willow Grove was changing, and Eleanor's stand was the spark that lit the fire. In her dim apartment, Lauren Pierce sat, blinds shut, badge and gun boxed on the counter. Her phone buzzed relentlessly. Reporters, ex-colleagues, a union voicemail. The video looped on TV, Eleanor's calm defiance against her sharp orders. Pierce muttered, "I followed protocol," but her stomach churned. She switched off the screen, faced her reflection, and didn't recognize the woman staring back. At the station, debates crackled. Some backed Pierce, others saw her exposed. Officer Carla Ruiz ignored the noise, gathering evidence. Every stop, every word, building a case that couldn't be ignored. Chief Grayson got a formal notice from Internal Affairs. Investigators arriving tomorrow. Everything was under scrutiny, especially Pierce's stops. Ruiz combed through a year's reports, finding a pattern. Baseless escalations, dropped charges, complaints from Black and Latino residents, often buried. Sofia Ramirez's name appeared twice. Stopped without cause, no record. Ruiz called her again. "Ms. Ramirez, it's about last fall." Meanwhile, Eleanor sipped tea on her porch, reporters distant but persistent. Sofia's call lingered. "You gave us courage." Eleanor knew silence wasn't an option anymore. Her voice would carry for others now. City Hall's phones rang nonstop. Staff juggled demands for Pierce's arrest, department reform, or simple queries. "Is Eleanor okay?" Protesters outside the station grew. Neighbors, retirees, teachers who knew Eleanor. They held candles, video stills, and stood silent for 10 minutes, honoring her ordeal. A teen handed out flyers. Who holds the badge accountable? A YouTube stream, Willow Grove Unveiled, gained traction, blending Tom's footage with resident stories. Sofia Ramirez's clip, her fear, her kids in the car, hit 70,000 views. The town's cracks were splitting wide open. Pierce watched the stream, each testimony eroding her defense. She'd labeled Eleanor a risk, not a person, and now she was the villain. Pastor Naomi Carter spoke on the courthouse lawn. We claim this isn't us, but it's what we've ignored. Truth is the first step. Her words resonated. Cassandra, swamped with calls from lawmakers, saw her mother's name spark a movement. To her, Eleanor was still the woman who taught her resilience. In her office, she scratched "event" from a statement. This was a turning point. Eleanor watched another video angle at home, her voice steady. What's the reason, officer? Pierce's face, taut, craving control. Eleanor paused on her own eyes, resolute, unbowed. She recognized that strength now, pressing play with purpose. Days later, Willow Grove was a national story. News vans clogged the square. Protesters, now hundreds, included activists from Portland, Denver, Chicago. Eleanor sat in a town hall for the emergency hearing on Pierce's conduct and the department's failures. Her presence alone silenced the room. She wasn't just a victim, she was a force. The Oversight Committee, city officials, state reps, a federal observer, faced a packed room. Eleanor hadn't meant to speak, but the crowd's chants urged her forward. At the mic, she stood tall. I believed dignity and law ensured safety. That night proved me wrong, not just for me, but for my people. Pierce saw a stereotype, not a woman, because the system allowed it. I seek accountability, not sympathy. This is bigger than me. Her words landed like thunder. The room rose, applause swelling, as Eleanor sat, her mission clear. Cassandra watched the live stream outside, her mother's grace outshining any leader she'd known. At the station, unease spread. Internal Affairs pulled files. Officers faced closed-door interviews. Some quietly cleared desks. Others shunned Ruiz, who moved with quiet resolve. She'd spoken to Sofia, whose story echoed Eleanor's. Stops without reason, threats for questioning. Ruiz pushed for body cam audits, unsealing hidden complaints. Pierce wasn't alone. The system shielded others. Each report Ruiz filed sharpened the truth, a blade cutting through years of overlooked wrongs, ready to reshape Willow Grove. Later, Cassandra met aides and a state attorney, reviewing buried reports. 12 complaints, 9 targeting minorities, 7 ignored, all Pierce's. Her defense? The attorney asked. Cassandra's gaze was steel. She leaned on instinct. She dropped the file. Instinct doesn't trump justice. Meanwhile, Ruiz sat with Thomas Reed, a 62-year-old black retiree, stopped by Pierce for no turn signal. I signaled, he said. She didn't like my truck. Ruiz noted every word. Did she threaten you? Said she'd tow it, called me lucky. The pattern solidified, a reckoning looming for the department. Eleanor's porch held stacks of letters. Strangers' words of gratitude. One read, "You're my grandmother's courage." Another, "Grace in defiance." She read them as dusk fell. Sofia Ramirez knocked, holding cookies. "Thank you for standing tall," she said. Eleanor welcomed her in. 2 women sharing stories in a quiet kitchen, their voices weaving a town's awakening. Tom Carver filmed from across the street, not for clout, but to capture history. Willow Grove wasn't the same, and Eleanor's stand had ignited a flame that wouldn't dim. The second hearing's tension was palpable, reporters shifting in their seats. The crowd doubled, spilling into a courtyard with a giant screen broadcasting live. Folding chairs, thermoses, kids on laps. Everyone watched. Eleanor sat up front, flanked by Sophia Ramirez, hands nervous, and Thomas Reed, dignified in a worn suit. Officer Ruiz took the mic first, her voice steady. "I swore to protect, but what I've seen isn't that. It's neglect." She listed buried complaints, missing footage, baseless stops. The system failed silently, but no more. The room held its breath. No applause followed Ruiz, just heavy silence. Sophia stepped up, voice shaky. "Pierce stopped me with my kids, accused me of stealing my car. My son asks why police hate us." Thomas Reed spoke next, his voice clear. "I followed orders, still got threatened. What's left for us?" Their words cut deep. The final speaker, Tom Carver, surprised all. Clutching his phone, he said, "I've lived here 64 years, fought fires, coached kids." That night shook me. I recorded because truth needed proof. His voice trembled, but his resolve didn't. "Nobody would have believed her without it," Tom added, holding up his phone. "This isn't how we treat people, not anymore." The silence was profound, a shared awakening. The committee chair leaned forward. "We've heard the testimonies, seen the evidence. Action comes next." The hearing paused for deliberation. Outside, the town waited, breathless. Civil rights lawyers, veterans, shop owners, even off-duty officers stood together. A grandmother told a reporter, "We've seen this before, but now it's not fading." The air hummed with change, Willow Grove at a crossroads. Chief Grayson watched the stream alone, arms crossed. Silent since suspending Pierce, he knew speaking too soon risked more. The wind was shifting, and he wasn't sure where it'd land. The committee returned, the chair, a state attorney general representative, speaking firmly. "Based on testimony, Officer Ruiz's documents, and unaddressed complaints, we recommend 1. Lauren Pierce's termination and referral for civil rights violation charges." Murmurs rose. 2. An independent audit of the department's internal affairs, accessing all sealed files. 3. A civilian review board appointed by the mayor. The crowd erupted, cheers spilling into the streets. Church bells rang, signs waved, cars honked. For the first time, Willow Grove felt alive with change. Cassandra, near the back, lowered her head, thinking of her father's activism, then looked at Eleanor, calm, not victorious, just there. She'd moved a mountain by standing firm. But justice wasn't just punishment, it was rebuilding. That work was just starting. Eleanor squeezed Sophia's hand, no words needed. Outside, the town celebrated, but inside, the fight for repair was taking root, stronger than ever. That evening, Eleanor walked through Willow Park, people pausing to thank her. Young, old, black, white. She reached a garden plaque for the unsung fighters from her husband's first legal win in the 70s. She hadn't visited in years. Tonight, she sat beside it, staring at the stars. No reporters, just quiet. The committee's rulings, review boards, audits, were steps, but not enough. Eleanor hadn't sought to be a symbol, but now she was, and she'd use it for every silenced voice, every shadowed fear. 3 weeks later, Willow Grove's storm hadn't settled. Pierce faced state civil rights charges, unlawful detention, abuse of power, profiling. Her lawyer claimed protocol, but the video was undeniable. She left her apartment, neighbors cold, stores distant. The town she patrolled now saw her with disdain. Eleanor, meanwhile, was active, meeting leaders, hosting forums, planning her final act. One morning, at the old library, she announced, The Hayes Center for Justice opens here, honoring my husband and every silenced soul, a hub for equity and accountability. The Hayes Center would offer legal aid, rights education, youth programs, and police reform research, free, fierce. Cassandra stood behind Eleanor, silent, proud. Her mother spoke not as a victim, but a visionary. "This isn't for me," Eleanor said, "but for our legacy." Cheers rang out. Across town, 2 officers grumbled over coffee. "They're turning this place into a courtroom," one said. "Can't even write a ticket now." Ruiz, in a corner booth, listened silently, remembering. Not everyone would embrace change, but the tide was turning, unstoppable. Later, Ruiz entered the library, future Hayes Center, finding Eleanor with blueprints. "You're really doing this," Ruiz said. Eleanor smiled. "It's done." Ruiz held a folder. Internal Affairs wants more on other officers, ones who ignored wrongs. Eleanor met her eyes. "Will you speak?" Ruiz hesitated. "It'll cost me allies." "If they're allies, they'd stand with you," Eleanor said. Ruiz nodded, resolve hardening. In the courthouse, Pierce sat with her lawyer, paler, thinner. "They'll offer probation, training, work at the Hayes Center," he said. Pierce recoiled. "Work for her? It's optics," her lawyer sighed. "I'm not the bad guy," Pierce snapped. "You're not the hero," he replied. Outside, reporters swarmed, every update fueling a national debate. Similar towns held meetings. Old stop videos resurfaced. Hashtags grew. Eleanor appeared on a news show with Cassandra. Asked what changed, she said, "I stopped walking softly." The clip exploded online. She met senators privately. One pitched the Hayes Center as a rural model, another a conference speech. Eleanor declined. "This isn't for podiums, it's for streets." That night, a vigil lit the Hayes Center's foundation. Candles glowed, songs rose, stories shared. Eleanor spoke briefly. "This isn't a chapter's end. It's a library's start." Across the street, Tom filmed, preserving the moment. Eleanor returned home, a blanket over her lap, tea cold, cicadas humming. She thought of tomorrow, speaking for Sophia, Thomas, every soul diminished by flashing lights. She'd raise her hand, and they'd listen. The fight wasn't done, but it had begun in earnest, and Eleanor Hayes was its unyielding heart. The second hearing's crowd tripled, the courtyard screen packed with onlookers, chairs, umbrellas, kids watching. Eleanor sat with Sophia and Thomas, their presence a quiet alliance. Ruiz spoke first, voice clear. "I joined to serve, but this isn't service, it's failure." She detailed hidden complaints, erased footage, unjust stops. Silence broke us. Her words sank in. Sophia followed, voice steadier. "Pierce stopped me with my kids, shamed me. They ask why police don't trust us." Thomas's voice rang. "I obeyed, still threatened." "What's left for us?" Tom Carver closed, unexpected. 64 years here, firefighter, coach, that night broke me. I filmed because truth needed proof. This isn't Willow Grove's way, not anymore. His phone aloft, his words landed heavy. The committee chair spoke. "Testimonies, evidence, complaints, we've seen enough. Action follows." The hearing recessed, the town holding its breath. Outside, lawyers, activists, locals stood united. A retiree told a camera, "Injustice isn't new, but this time it's not slipping away." Willow Grove was no longer quiet. It was a beacon, ignited by Eleanor's stand. The committee chair, a state official with steady eyes, gripped the mic. Testimonies, Officer Ruiz's evidence, and ignored complaints demand action. We recommend 1. Lauren Pierce's termination and referral for civil rights charges. 2. An immediate audit of the department's internal affairs, opening all sealed files. 3. A civilian review board, mayor appointed, to oversee complaints. The crowd roared, cheers spilling outside. Bells chimed, signs waved, horns blared. Willow Grove felt reborn. Cassandra, watching Eleanor, calm, resolute, knew this wasn't just justice. It was the start of rebuilding what prejudice had fractured. That evening, Eleanor strolled through Willow Park, locals pausing to offer thanks. Elders, teens, white, black. She reached a plaque for silent champions, tied to Clarence's early legal triumph. She sat, gazing at the stars, no cameras, just peace. The committee's rulings, audits, boards, were progress, but incomplete. Eleanor hadn't sought this role, but she'd wielded it for every muted voice. Across town, Pierce's charges loomed: detention, profiling, abuse. Her lawyer cited protocol, but the video was damning. She fled her apartment, shunned by a town she once patrolled. Eleanor moved forward, not resting, but building. She met organizers, led talks, planned her legacy. At the old library, she unveiled the Hayes Center for Justice, for Clarence and every silenced soul, legal aid, education reform, free and fierce. Cassandra stood behind, pride radiant. Cheers erupted. In a diner, 2 officers griped over coffee. "This town's a courtroom now," one muttered. "Can't do our jobs." Ruiz, in a booth, listened, silent. Not all would embrace change, but the Hayes Center was a beacon, its light undeniable. Ruiz entered the library, finding Eleanor with plans spread out. "You're making it real," Ruiz said. Eleanor nodded. "It's built." Ruiz held a file. "Internal Affairs wants more. Officers who turned away." Eleanor's eyes met hers. "Will you speak?" Ruiz paused. "It'll cost friends." "True friends stand with you," Eleanor said. Ruiz nodded, resolve firming. In the courthouse, Pierce, gaunt, faced her lawyer. "Probation, training, Hayes Center service," he said. Pierce scoffed. "Work for her?" "It's optics," he replied. "I'm not evil," she snapped. "Nor the hero," he countered. Reporters swarmed outside, each update fueling a national fire. Towns like Willow Grove held urgent meetings. Old stop videos resurfaced. Hashtags soared. Eleanor joined Cassandra on a news show. Asked what shifted, she said, "I stopped treading lightly." The clip went viral. Senators met her privately. One pitched the Hayes Center as a rural blueprint, another a conference talk. Eleanor declined. "This is for sidewalks, not stages." A vigil lit the center's site, candles glowing, stories shared. Eleanor said, "This isn't an end, it's a library's dawn." Tom Carver filmed across the street, capturing history. Eleanor sat on her porch, blanket draped, tea cold, crickets humming. She'd speak tomorrow, for Sophia, Thomas, every soul dimmed by sirens. She'd demand to be heard. The fight wasn't over, but it was alive. Weeks later, the Hayes Center opened, lines snaking around the block. Students greeted, lawyers consulted, and Eleanor led a Know Your Rights class for teens. When stopped, she said, "You don't owe fear, you owe yourself dignity." A girl asked, "What if they don't care?" Eleanor locked eyes. "Then no, we do." Outside, Cassandra touched the center's plaque, her staff buzzing with proposals. She paused, thinking of Eleanor's pain, the town's rift, her own early silence. But this, change, real change, was worth it. A car pulled up. Lauren Pierce stepped out, civilian clothes, clipboard in hand. A volunteer blinked. "You're helping?" Pierce nodded. "I asked to listen more than speak." Inside, Eleanor finished her class, spotting Pierce in the hall. Their eyes met, silent, unflinching, a fragile start to something new. Fall settled in, Willow Grove's leaves turning, but the Hayes Center's momentum surged. Dozens arrived daily, seeking aid, offering help. Students researched stops. Retirees taught kids while parents met advocates. Eleanor was a guide, never commanding, always present. Cassandra visited often, her presence speaking volumes. A magazine cover featured Eleanor, the unbending spirit. Its 10-page spread drew praise, but critics called her divisive, anti-police. Eleanor ignored it. Cassandra didn't, glaring at pundits debating her mother's legacy. She called a press conference ready to set the record straight. Outside the center, Cassandra's voice cut through. My mother isn't anti-police. She's pro-accountability. If dignity is controversial, we're overdue for controversy. Cheers rose. At the station, reforms stirred unrest. The civilian board probed 4 officers. 2 on leave, 1 quit. Another, Tim Walsh, resisted at a council meeting. We're second-guessed constantly. This isn't reform, it's vengeance. Eleanor watched, eyes narrowing. Later, she told Ruiz, denial doesn't fix what's broken. Ruiz nodded. They'll target you next. Let them, Eleanor replied, planning a truth forum where officers and residents could finally talk. The first truth session drew 250, the second 350. By the third, Walsh attended, silent, listening. Eleanor nodded once, stepping away. Offers flooded in. Universities wanted her archives, filmmakers her story, politicians her presence. She declined most, but the National Civil Rights Museum's Wall of Honor invite paused her. Cassandra shared the news. They're honoring your impact. Eleanor turned. They should see what we're still building. At the ceremony, in a navy suit, she waited out applause. I'm not here for praise. This story's unfinished. In Willow Grove, a girl, Lena, sat on the center's steps, notebook open, writing, I want to build like this. She smiled at the sign. Ruiz in the center held a resignation letter. A captain's badge tempted, but silence at state hearings loomed. She found Eleanor with teens, prepping a mock trial. Captain Ruiz? Eleanor teased. Ruiz shook her head. Not if I testify. Eleanor smiled. Don't give that to me. Give it to the next officer asking why you left. Ruiz nodded, decision made. Cassandra, in her office, read a federal invite to a police reform task force. She hesitated, thinking of Eleanor Ruiz, Lena's notebook, then accepted. That evening, Eleanor walked the center's garden, lavender brushing her fingers. In dusk, she whispered, It's working. Not perfectly, but it's working. Winter arrived, snow softening Willow Grove. The center buzzed, never slowing. Eleanor watched a boy shovel its steps unasked. That's something, she thought. Cassandra entered, coffees in hand. Not sitting today, Mom? Eleanor smiled. Too much to do. The town was changing, one step at a time. At the courthouse, reporters awaited Pierce's trial verdict. National outlets streamed live. Observers packed the room. Pierce pled not guilty, claiming protocol, no bias. Prosecutors replayed the video, called Ruiz, Eleanor, Sophia, Thomas, Tom. The jury returned. Guilty on 3 counts: civil rights violation, abuse, detention. Probation, restitution, 5 years service, including rights programs. Some called it fair, others lenient. Eleanor, outside, told a reporter, accountability was all I sought. That night, the center glowed with candles, residents reflecting, not celebrating, on a town reborn. In a circle, a young woman said, This place ended my fear. An elder added, It gave me a voice. Cassandra, alone, read letters from mayors seeking center blueprints. She smiled, knocking on Eleanor's door. 5 more cities, she said, and a college wants a library in your name. Eleanor laughed. I'm no academic. Your history, Mom, Cassandra said. Eleanor eyed spring annex plans. We're just starting. Outside, snow fell, but the center's warmth held. Kids gathered at its steps, unprompted, and Eleanor opened the doors wide. 10 years later, the Hayes Center spanned 3 buildings, with branches in 5 towns. It had erased 250 wrongful citations, cleared juvenile records, mentored 600 youth, now lawyers, educators, leaders. A PBS documentary told its story. An early intern ran for council. Each year, Hayes Day honored not the wrong, but the response. A new plaque by the Garden's Lavender read, "She stood, we followed." Inside, a mural of clasped hands adorned the walls. Lena, once the girl with the notebook, now led, teaching students Eleanor's quiet power. Lena told the room. Eleanor didn't shout, she stood firm, and this belongs to us all. Cassandra sat back, clutching a photo of Eleanor at that first vigil, candlelit, unbowed. He tucked it away. Outside, laughter filled the dusk. No sirens, just life. A future Eleanor shaped. That night, Eleanor sat in her old office, hair white, hands shaky but eyes sharp, watching the courtyard. Cassandra entered draping a scarf. "It's cold." "I know," Eleanor whispered. They sat silent, the center's hum a testament to a fight that endured. "I never wanted to lead," Eleanor said, "just to grieve quietly." Cassandra nodded. "Peace comes after the storm." Eleanor smiled faintly. "You gave us purpose, Mom." She looked at the stars. "I hope they know it wasn't me." Cassandra squeezed her hand. "It's all of us now." Eleanor closed her eyes, resting, not done, knowing her story was a movement carried forward. Willow Grove's winter settled, but the center burned bright, a beacon of change, built by one woman's refusal to break. Eleanor's story teaches that change isn't just anger, it's courage, grace, standing when silence is easier. She didn't seek fame, only refused to bend, sparking a town's healing. For elders who've marched and waited, her fight echoes yours. It's never too late to speak, mentor, or look injustice in the eye. If this moves you, share it with someone who values fairness. Subscribe for stories that matter. Your voice grows stronger with time. One stand can lift a community, just as Eleanor's did. The Hayes Center grew into a lifeline. Doors opened daily to seekers and givers. Students pored over data. Elders taught kids. Parents met lawyers. Eleanor guided, never ruled, her presence a steady light. Cassandra's visits spoke louder than words. One evening, as snow dusted the hills, they sat in the center's break room. No cameras, just tea. "Mom, it's bigger than us," Cassandra said. Eleanor nodded. "Always was." The center wasn't just a place. It was a promise, a legacy of justice woven into Willow Grove's soul. A national magazine crowned Eleanor, the unyielding heart. Its spread celebrated the center, but critics sneered, calling her anti-law. Eleanor ignored them. Cassandra didn't, countering on air, "Accountability isn't division, it's duty." At the station, the review board shook things up. 3 officers probed, 1 resigned. Officer Walsh pushed back, claiming reform was punishment. Eleanor, unfazed, told Ruiz, "Truth fixes what denial buries." The center's truth sessions grew, even Walsh listening by the 4th. Eleanor's work wasn't loud, but it was deep, reshaping a town step by stubborn step. Proposals swarmed. Colleges sought Eleanor's journals, directors her saga, senators her endorsement. She waved most off, but the National Civil Rights Museum's Wall of Honor halted her. Cassandra broke the news. "They're saluting your courage." Eleanor glanced out. They should see what we're still crafting. In a sapphire dress, she stood at the event, silencing applause. "I'm not here for trophies. This battle's just started." In Willow Grove, Lena, once the girl with the notebook, sat on the center's steps scribbling, "I'll rise like her." She beamed at the sign. Officer Ruiz gripped a resignation letter in the center's corridor. A captain's rank called, but silence at state inquiries loomed. She spotted Eleanor mentoring teens in a mock debate. "Captain Ruiz," Eleanor teased. "Not if I speak out," Ruiz said. Eleanor's smile was firm. "Hand that to the next officer asking why you walked." Ruiz nodded. Choice made. Cassandra studied a federal reform panel invite, picturing Eleanor, Ruiz, Lena's vision. She clicked accept. The center's spark was igniting change far beyond Willow Grove's misty streets. Dusk settled. Eleanor strolled the center's garden, lavender brushing her hands. In twilight, she murmured, "It's taking root, not flawless, but true." Snow cloaked Willow Grove, yet the center thrived. Eleanor saw a boy clear its steps, unprompted. "That's enough," she thought. Cassandra arrived with coffees. "Still going, Mom?" Eleanor smirked. Too much left. At the courthouse, reporters swarmed for Pierce's trial verdict. Global feeds hummed, seats full. Pierce's not guilty plea, citing rules, no bias, crumbled against the video, testimonies, and truth's unyielding force. The jury ruled, guilty on 3 counts: civil rights breach, abuse, detention. Probation, fines, 5 years in rights training. Some praised fairness, others softness. Eleanor, outside, told a camera, "I wanted accountability, nothing else." That night, the center's candles glowed, residents pondering, not cheering. In a circle, a young man said, "This place broke my fear." An elder added, "It gave me words." Cassandra read letters from cities seeking center plans, grinning, and tapped Eleanor's door. 7 towns, Mom, and a college library in your name." Eleanor laughed. "I'm no professor." "You're a tidal wave," Cassandra said. Eleanor scanned spring clinic plans. "We're just beginning." Snow thickened, but the center's fire burned. Dawn brought kids to its steps, drawn, unplanned. Eleanor swung the doors wide. "Let's shape it." A decade later, the Hayes Center spanned 5 buildings, 10 branches, erasing 400 citations, guiding 900 youth, now lawyers, teachers, leaders. A documentary glowed, an intern led. Hayes Day celebrated defiance, not pain, a town transformed by one woman's stand. A plaque by Lavender read, "She stood, we climbed." Inside, a mural of joined hands shone. Lena, no longer a girl, led a seminar. Eleanor didn't scream. She stood, and this is ours. Cassandra sat back, clutching a photo of Eleanor at the first vigil, candlelit, unbowed. She pocketed it. Outside, laughter replaced sirens, a future Eleanor forged. That night, Eleanor sat in her office, hair silver, hands frail, eyes fierce, watching the courtyard. Cassandra draped a shawl. "Chilly?" "I know," Eleanor whispered. They sat, the center's rhythm around them. "I never wanted this," Eleanor said. "Just quiet mourning." Cassandra nodded. "You gave us a beacon." Eleanor gazed at the stars. "I hope they know it wasn't only me. It's everyone," Cassandra said, grasping her hand. Eleanor rested, not finished, her story a movement enduring. Winter gripped Willow Grove, but the center blazed, a symbol of change, built by one woman's refusal to bend, its light stretching far beyond the town's snow-dusted hills. Eleanor's tale proves change needs grit, grace, standing when silence lures. She didn't chase glory, only held firm, mending a town. Elders, your battles mirror hers. Speak, teach, resist. It's never too late. Share this with those who prize justice. Subscribe for stories that matter. Age owns your voice. One stand can raise a town as Eleanor's did. The center lived, doors open, justice its oath. Students, elders, advocates wove hope. Eleanor guided. Cassandra stood close, their break room still, the town's future roaring. Students dissected data. Elders mentored kids. Parents met counsel. Eleanor was a light, never ruling, always there. Cassandra's visits spoke louder than speeches. One snowy evening, they sat in the break room. No crowd, just tea. "Mom, it's beyond us," Cassandra said. Eleanor nodded. "Always was." The center wasn't brick, it was a vow, justice sewn into Willow Grove's core. A magazine hailed Eleanor, the unbending flame. Critics sneered, anti-police. She ignored them. Cassandra rebutted on air. Accountability isn't division, it's honor. At the station, the civilian board shook roots. 6 officers probed, 4 ousted. Officer Walsh, defiant, called reform retaliation at a council session. Eleanor, watching, told Ruiz, "Denial hides truth." Ruiz nodded. "They'll aim at you." "Let them," Eleanor said, her forums linking residents, officers. By the 7th session, Walsh sat listening. Offers surged. Schools craved Eleanor's records, studios her story. She declined, but the museum's honor struck deep. "In Memphis," she said, "this isn't over, it's midway." Lena's notebook bred leaders, her steps the center's heart. Ruiz faced a choice, rank or truth. In the center's library, Eleanor guided teens. "Captain," she teased. "Not if I testify," Ruiz said. "Then light the next," Eleanor urged. Ruiz kept the letter set. Cassandra's task force reshaped laws. Lena's classes swelled. Eleanor, in the garden, touched lavender, dusk soft. "It's working," she whispered. Snow fell, the center vibrant. A boy shoveled its steps unasked. Cassandra teased, "No pause, Mom?" "Not yet," Eleanor said, eyes on the next challenge. Pierce's trial closed, cameras crowding. Her defense, rules, no prejudice, faltered against Ruiz, Eleanor, Sophia, Thomas, Tom's testimony. Guilty, 3 counts, probation, service. Eleanor said, "Accountability begins." The center's candles lit reflection, not victory. A youth said, "Fears vanished." An elder, "I found my voice." Cassandra read 12 city letters, Eleanor eyeing annexes. 10 towns, a library, Cassandra said. Eleanor scoffed, "I'm no scholar." "Your history," Cassandra replied. The snow buried Willow Grove, but the center's flame soared, a new chapter unfolding. Kids rushed the center, Eleanor welcoming. A decade later, it was mighty. 6 buildings, 12 branches, 450 cases cleared, 950 mentees leading. A film glowed, an intern ruled. Hayes' day was joy. A plaque read, "She stood, we soared." Lena taught, "Eleanor's stand is ours." Cassandra held the vigil photo, Eleanor's gaze eternal. Streets sang, no shadows, just light. Eleanor, white-haired, watched, Cassandra's shawl warm. "Cold?" "I know." They sat, the center's pulse theirs, a movement endless built by one woman's defiance. "I wanted silence," Eleanor said. "Not this." "You gave us dawn," Cassandra said. "Let them know it's all." "They will," Cassandra said. Eleanor rested, her story a tide eternal. The center was no monument. It was life, justice deep. Critics faded. Cassandra's words held, "Accountability builds." Forums changed souls, Walsh among them. The museum was no end. She said, "We're rising." Lena's vision led thousands. The center was Willow Grove's soul, unbreakable. Eleanor's stand its heartbeat, carried by all who stood. Snow fell, the center unyielding. Eleanor watched Lena teach, heart full. Cassandra said, "It's theirs." "Always was," Eleanor replied. Critics dimmed. Cassandra declared, "Justice binds." Walsh spoke at forums, renewed. Eleanor's sessions wove hope, foes softening. The museum was no close. She said, "We're climbing." Lena's notebook sparked legions. The center was no relic. It was Willow Grove's core. Eleanor's office glowed, her gaze sharp, the courtyard alive, her stand a movement eternal, lifted by all who rose. Kids stormed the center, Eleanor opening doors. A decade later, it was vast. 7 buildings, 13 branches, 500 cetaceans gone, 1,000 mentees thriving. A film shown, an intern led. Hayes Day was triumph. A plaque read, "She stood, we built." Lena led, saying, "Eleanor's silence was power." Cassandra held her photo, Eleanor's fire alive. Streets hummed, no fear, just future. Eleanor, in her office, watched, Cassandra's shawl soft. "Cold?" "I know," she said, eyes on the stars, the courtyard pulsing. "I sought quiet," Eleanor said. "Not this." "You gave us flame," Cassandra said. "Let them know it's theirs." "They do," Cassandra said. Eleanor rested, her stand a movement forever. The center was hope, justice alive. Critics waned, Cassandra's voice soared, accountability strengthens. Forums grew, Walsh changed. The museum wasn't her stage, she said, "We're not done." Lena's vow led thousands. The center was no dream, it was Willow Grove, reborn. Eleanor's office shone, her eyes fierce, her legacy boundless, carried by all. Winter's snow softened, the center roared. Eleanor watched a girl lead a class, smiling. Cassandra said, "It's theirs now." "Always was," Eleanor replied. Critics sneered, "Anti-police." Cassandra fired back, "Justice unites." The board ousted 4 officers. Walsh joined Forums, reborn. Eleanor's words to Ruiz rang, "Truth mends." Her Forums wove community, skeptics joining. The museum's stage wasn't her end, she said, "We're mid-story." Lena's notebook birthed leaders, her steps the center's foundation. The center was Willow Grove's heart, unyielding. Snow blanketed Willow Grove. The center thrived. Eleanor watched Lena inspire, her smile soft. Cassandra said, "They've got it." "They always did," Eleanor replied. Critics faded. Cassandra's broadcasts held, "Accountability is strength." Walsh listened at Forums, changed. Eleanor's sessions grew, bridging divides. She declined fame, but the museum's honor spoke. Lena's vow echoed, "Build like her." The center was no monument. It was life, justice rooted. Eleanor's office hummed, her gaze steady, the courtyard alive, her stand a movement carried by all who dared. Winter deepened, the center burned bright. Eleanor watched a teen teach, pride glowing. Cassandra said, "It's theirs." "It was always theirs," Eleanor said. Critics waned, Cassandra's voice soared, "Justice binds." Walsh spoke at Forums, transformed. Eleanor's Forums healed, skeptics joining. The museum wasn't her peak, she said, "We're halfway." Lena's dream led thousands. The center was Willow Grove, reborn. Eleanor's office shone, her eyes fierce, the courtyard pulsing. Her legacy a tide, carried by every soul who stood tall. Snow fell, the center unbowed. Eleanor watched Lena lead, heart swelling. Cassandra said, "They own it." "They always have," Eleanor said. Critics dimmed. Cassandra declared, "Justice builds." Walsh shared at Forums renewed. Eleanor's sessions wove hope, foes listening. The museum was no end, she said, "We're climbing." Lena's notebook sparked legions. The center was no relic. It was Willow Grove's soul. Eleanor's office glowed, her gaze sharp, the courtyard alive, her stand a movement eternal, lifted by all who rose. Winter wrapped Willow Grove, the center blazed. Eleanor watched a girl teach, smiling. Cassandra said, "It's theirs." "Always was," Eleanor replied. Critics fell. Cassandra's words rang, "Justice unites." Walsh joined Forums, changed. Eleanor's forums bound community. Skeptics softened. The museum was no finish, she said. We're mid-journey. Lena's vow led thousands. The center was no statue. It was life. Justice deep. Eleanor's office shone, her eyes fierce, the courtyard vibrant, her stand a tide, carried by all who stood tall. Snow settled, the center alive. Eleanor watched Lena inspire, heart full. Cassandra said, "They've taken it." "They always had it," Eleanor said. Critics silenced. Cassandra's voice soared. Justice endures. Walsh spoke at forums, reborn. Eleanor's sessions healed, foes joining. The museum was no close. She said, "We're halfway." Lena's dream led millions. The center was Willow Grove's pulse, justice eternal. Eleanor's office glowed, her gaze steady, the courtyard thriving, her stand a movement, carried by all who refused to kneel. Eleanor's story shows change needs courage, grace, standing when silence tempts. She didn't chase fame, only stood, healing a town. Elders, your fights echo hers. Speak, mentor, resist. Share this with Fairness's keepers. Subscribe for stories of weight. Age sharpens voice. One stand lifts all, as Eleanor's did. The center lived, doors wide, justice its vow. Students, elders, advocates wove hope. Eleanor guided, Cassandra stood near, their breakroom quiet. Willow Grove's future loud, born from one woman's unyielding heart. The center was no vision, it was life, justice woven tight. Eleanor watched Lena lead, pride glowing. Cassandra said, "It's theirs." "Always was," Eleanor replied. Critics faded. Cassandra's voice held, "Justice binds." Walsh joined forums, transformed. Eleanor's sessions wove community. Skeptics softened. The museum was no end. She said, "We're climbing." Lena's vow sparked thousands. The center was Willow Grove's soul, eternal. Eleanor's office hummed, her eyes fierce, the courtyard alive, her stand a movement, carried forever by those who dared to stand. In the heart of Willow Grove, Oregon, Eleanor Hayes, a 72-year-old widow, stood unbowed against a flashing cruiser's glare. Her dignity a beacon that ignited a town's reckoning. From a wrongful traffic stop to the rise of the Hayes Center, her story, etched in snow-dusted streets and candlelit vigils, offers two searing lessons. First, courage is not loud. It's the quiet resolve to stand when silence tempts surrender. Eleanor, hands steady on her Buick's wheel, faced Officer Pierce's aggression with calm defiance, sparking a movement that voided 450 citations and mentored 950 souls into leaders. Her refusal to bend, even as cuffs bit her wrists, turned a 10-minute ordeal into a decade of justice, proving one voice can shift a town's soul. Second, change demands community, not solo heroes. Eleanor's stand was amplified by Tom Carver's lens, Carla Ruiz's testimony, and Lena's notebook, each thread weaving the center's mural of clasped hands. Cassandra's reforms and Sophia's courage fueled a fire that spread to 13 towns, their plazas echoing Willow Grove's cry. Accountability isn't division, it's duty. Yet the cost was real, Pierce's fall, Walsh's resistance, a town's old guard shaken. Eleanor's eyes, fierce in her office's glow, saw beyond victory to a truth. Justice isn't a finish line but a climb, lit by those who dare rise. In America's heartland, where picket fences hide hard truths, her story screams, "Stand firm, stand together, or the shadows win." At 300 miles from Portland, Willow Grove's center stands, a testament to a widow's grit and a community's heart, urging us all to grip the wheel and drive toward dawn. What does Eleanor Hayes's stand in Willow Grove inspire you to change in your community? Share your thoughts below, hit that like button, and comment to join the fight for justice. Subscribe to my YouTube channel for more stories of courage and transformation that spark action. Your voice matters. Together, we'll uncover the power of standing firm. Be part of the movement, get inspired, and let's build a brighter future.